Hi there. My name is Angad Lamba, and this is my recorded video presentation for Accounting 260 in reference to the class assessment for external students. So, the sustainability issue that I have chosen to discuss today is of water scarcity with reference to the media source of the World Economic Forum. Water is essential for agricultural production and food security. It is the lifeblood of ecosystems, including forests, lakes, and wetlands, on which our present and future food and nutritional security depends. Yet, our freshwater resources are dwindling and at an alarming rate. So, growing water scarcity is one of the leading challenges for sustainable development. So the issue is of vital importance. Okay, there was a thinking for a long time that water scarcity only affects the developing nations, but over the course of time and through vigorous research, we now know that water scarcity is one of the most driving sustainability issues the global world is facing. And even developed nations such as Australia have faced their own water crises, with droughts affecting inland areas for the past 2 decades. So, whether it be drought problems in Australia or clean drinking water in the third world, in general, we are facing a water crisis, even though we are completely surrounded by the sea, as some thinking goes. Okay, so according to the World Economic Forum, the Global Risk Report of 2016, water crises are one of the three biggest challenges we face. So a new study has backed up these findings as well, estimating that 4 million people, two-thirds of the global population, are facing water scarcity. So moving on, there are a few key stakeholders in this discussion, and these include international organizations first. So they need to be making, business decisions on global operations and how to utilize their reach to the best of their ability in this matter. So some examples of this could be things such as partnering with local communities to end HIV and water crises, educating on water consumption, production of clean water from natural resources, and establishing filtration systems in locations that they operate in, and so forth. These are just a few examples. Okay. Another key stakeholder would be governments. So they need to be implementing policies and legal standards for the consumption of water and its uses. Example being how currently in Australia there are time restrictions on how when households can water their garden, depending on the time of the day, due to the ongoing drought that we are facing. So global governments need to be working together to be able to meet targets and provide safe water for their people. Okay. Another key stakeholder would be local communities. So also they are vital in this process, and the best efforts need to be revolved around working with the government and local organisations that uh, operate there to implement correct practices and water cleansing solutions, I believe. So the involvement of stakeholders is therefore key in achieving the targets, and it is an important component of good water governance. Now, the overall objectives of this focal area is therefore involvement of stakeholders in sustainable water resource use and management, training, communicating, raising awareness on water scarcity issues, and managing conflicts over water resources under changing human and climate conditions. So currently, the sustainability information that's available, there's a lot of information that's available in regards to water scarcity and the targets that each country are setting, as well as the global targets set out by things such as the Sustainable Development Goals and other world organizations. So examples of such targets include SDG 6, where by 2030 the UN believes the world should achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all. Furthermore, the sustainability issue of water scarcity is not hindered at all by the availability of information. The information is out there and readily available to anyone who wishes to attain it. The real issue is the actions that are not being taken to implement the information available. So, till date, there is a taboo still thinking that we are surrounded by water. How can it be? How can it be a scarce and a sustainability issue? So, continuing on, the information definitely enables decision making if those key stakeholders mentioned earlier would like to use it and action on it. There's a variety of different government bodies and NGOs around the world who report on water scarcity, as well as different organizations that have set standards and targets to achieve. So, therefore, the information available on the issue is wide and available if one chooses to seek it. Now, when it comes to this information, of course, it can be improved. So there's a few recommendations that I've got together here. Now, all of the information is of quality and substance already. Like anything, improvements can be made. So, some recommendations I have gathered for this include more achievable targets to be set out by government bodies. Currently, targets and goals are always 10, 20, 30 years in the future and are quite extreme in the nature of them. They are always much larger and broader. They could be a bit more narrow and a bit more achievable, I feel. Secondly, the information available is quite detailed and sometimes hard to read for everyday people. Even I found that a little bit difficult sometimes in the research that I've done for this assessment. So the information seems to always be created for organizations and governments, and hence it is quite detailed and in depth. So a good recommendation would be to make the information more easier to understand and for the average person so they can implement some strategies in their household for day-to-day activities of water consumption and long-term sustainability. Okay. Lastly, there's another recommendation that I've come up with, and I think that would be to improve the information to use of it. So improving information would be of good use. You know, the information is there. Of course, it can be improved and altered, but we're just like anything. But we need actions to be taken. So I think more or less than trying to improve the sustainability information, we should be focusing on what actions can be taken in achieving these targets that have been set out. So lastly, what I'd like to say is we need to make better and fairer use of what we already have with water scarcity. But it won't be easy, and they do admit that it will be one of the most difficult and important challenges of this century. But it does need to be done. Thank you for your time.